affect me? Is it going to affect Rosie? Is it going to affect you? Who is it an emergency for?
Everybody. It's an emergency for everybody. We've got to understand that the idea of declaring a health emergency is purely to spread awareness amongst people who may not be taking it very seriously, especially countries where there's not much awareness around monkeypox, where there isn't a big budget that is assigned to scientific research and vaccine development. Third world countries, I mean, we are in a very privileged position because we've got the smallpox vaccine that we're using, and we've procured some, and we are spreading awareness and talking about this. But we've got to bear in mind that we're not the vast majority. There are many countries around the world that are still not taking it seriously.
I'm not taking it seriously, right? I don't believe I'm at risk from it in the slightest. Can you tell me how I am at risk from it?
See, the data that we have so far does suggest that the vast majority are men who are either in same-sex relationships or are homosexual or bisexual. But what we've got to understand is that the spread can be via close contact. It can be skin to skin. So anyone could be at risk. So if we are saying that only people who are in same-sex relationships and are men are at risk, then we're wrong.
Well, I'd love to see the numbers on it, that's all. I mean, I'm just not in favour of all this scare technique. If it is for the gay community, if it is for people who are bisexual, if it is for people who may be sexually promiscuous, then say so. But stop scaring the bejesus out of the rest of us. That's my view.
Well, what we've got to understand is that these people are human beings at the end of the day and have families, and they're not just hanging out with people from the same sex. They are probably are in close contact, sharing towels, clothing with other family members as well who may not be homosexual. So this is a problem. See, what we've got to understand is that we still are unaware of why there is such a speedy spread of this virus, and we haven't understood the mode of action this time. There are two strains of the virus, the West and the Central. The West is milder, and the West is the one that we're seeing in the rest of the world.
So whilst we don't understand, it's better being more cautious than less cautious. I get that.
100%.
Something that is causing real fears, the front page of several of the papers this morning, this new review talking about the staffing crisis in the NHS, talking about the need for about 12,000 more doctors, 50,000 more midwives and nurses. What do you see day to day? Do you see colleagues who just say, do you know what, actually, I'm not putting up with this anymore. It's time to call it quits?
I'm very pleased that finally the media is taking this seriously. This is not something that has happened overnight. This has been going on for years on end, decades and decades, but nobody has been taking this seriously. I mean, we've come up with different recruitment techniques, taking people from abroad, but the problem is not recruitment, the problem is retention. The working environment within the NHS is unfavorable. If I look at GPs alone, I'm a GP myself, the healthcare budget, from the healthcare budget, 11% was assigned towards GP surgeries, which would involve procurement. It would involve all the work and the facilities and, the service that GP surgeries would give you. Now that has shrunk instead of going up with the inflation from 11% to 8%. They do more than 80 to 90% of the NHS's work on a 7%, just 7% workforce, and are expected to work and function on 8% of the budget. So, I mean, these are little things to the world, but I think there's a lot behind this. A lot of effort has been put behind this. I mean, the workforce is demoralized, and yes, people are burning out. I mean, if you pick up a paper, there's always something bad to say about your general practitioners. I mean, the language that's used is just appalling. And instead of encouragement, there's a lot of bashing. So, people do want to leave it. We've got to understand people who work within the healthcare system are highly qualified, educated people, whether these are doctors or nurses. And it takes a vast portion of their life to get to where they are. And if they are deciding to leave the profession in the end, you can imagine how they actually feel and how burnout they are. We've got to look after our workforce.